Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons, and we're specifically going to talk about why you need to get on the Scott Garibay train of Dungeons & Dragons is not a game. So in my humble opinion, Dungeons & Dragons was not a game on day one, and it is not a game day now. I believe that Gary Gygax created Dungeons & Dragons as a human flourishment engine, specifically designed it to help people to allow themselves to combat their own deficiencies, explore their place in society, and interact with every single person they ever encounter in a different, more deep, and more robust way. And I believe that Dungeons & Dragons is a life-transforming force, right? That came from Gary Gygax's work when he was alive, and now comes from Gary Gygax's legacy now that he's dead, right? And I really think it's incredibly powerful, and I don't believe it's a game. And that means that every time I sit down at a table, I'm looking to become better. I'm looking to murder it so that it doesn't pop up and hurt us again. That's a pretty open discussion of alignment and morality, like right there, So my idea that changing people's lives and having open discussions about morality, it doesn't end at the dungeon master seat. It absolutely can happen in the player seat, right? So in my humble opinion, that's what Dungeons & Dragons is. But I'm not the only one on the train that, in my opinion, that Listen, I'm not the only one on that train, in my opinion. I think Joe Manganiello is actually on that train. In the D&D, in the 2022 D&D, actually, I'm sorry, in the 2023 D&D Direct that we already got this year, he actually said he was having he said this, like, flat out on a D&D Direct. He said, I'm having elevated conversations with, people who have used Dungeons & Dragons to transform their lives, and as a consequence, the society they live in. What? Like, that sounds a lot like something that was come out of Scott Garibay's mouth. And that was just at a D&D Direct, right? So I even think that there's open discussions within Hasbro headquarters that Dungeons & Dragons is more than it's being presented as. I think that's already happening. I think we have proof of that now with the 2023 D&D Direct. So why should you get on the train? Well, here's why. The reason is a recent Black Mirror episode. So Black Mirror just opened up its 6th season, right? And there are spoilers for the episode for season 6, episode 1 of Black Mirror, and the name of the episode is Joan is Awful. So there are spoilers here for Joan is Awful. All right, so Joan is Awful is a really important episode. So first of all, why am I even talking about Black Mirror? Black Mirror ain't cool anymore, right? I get you. I understand that. So one, you're right. I clicked on, I saw, Black Mirror's got a new season. I'm going to skip that, right? But I fell in a show hole, right? And I'm like, let me try it out. And actually, this is my take, right? Every Black Mirror season has 10 episodes and one's good, right? And the rest of them are like, technology's bad. Hey, did you know that it's dangerous to use social media? Oh, technology's bad. It's just, and College Humor, they absolutely mercilessly mocked the Black Mirror episodes for their one-note Luddite. So that's the point. The whole show's a Luddite show. Oh, technology bad. And it struggles. The show really struggles from a lot of perspectives, right? It struggles from a massively Luddite view, right? The other thing it's doing is it presents each story as, hey, there's a moral here. Like they're trying to do traditional stories with a moral, but everyone who writes it is godless. I'm pretty sure, right? Like, actually, I'm sure. Like, let me put it this way: there are no traditional good, evil aligned values here. This is, and I think there definitely could be some spiritual but not religious people working on this show. right? But there are no people of faith working on this thing. Every person on this is a pure Hollywood show, and so you're going to get more modern relativism, right? Oh, what's truth, right? Is there good? Is there evil? Everything's justified. Whatever. Your mom and your dad, treated you badly, so you're a murderer. Whatever. Like, you're still understand. You're still relatable, right? So there's a lot of reasons to not watch Black Mirror. Okay, so I watched Black Mirror and I was surprised. The episode I saw was quite good, right? And actually I continued on and I've watched 3 or 4 episodes, and it's not bad. It's not a bad season, and I think the reason why is they were getting mocked so mercilessly on the internet for this one-note Luddite nonsense they've been serving up for 5 seasons. And I think they were like, hey, we better change it, right? So I think they did, right? They stepped off the Ludditism a little bit, right? So Joan is Awful is this story about a woman who's just a regular woman, and she's going about her day, and then this show comes on and it says Joan is Awful, and it's clearly her life, and it's clearly everything she literally did that day, and the show is dropping episodes every single day, and the way it's doing it is this streaming service called Streamberry. She signed when she signed up for Streamberry, they're like, hey, we have access to every single thing in your life, and we're going to use it. Kind of the way like Facebook is like, all your content is ours, right? And people are like, whatever, I don't care. Or like, you're not going to use it for anything, right? And so and Streamberry puts on good shows, and people want to watch the shows, and Facebook gives you, like, people are like, oh, you got to be careful, Facebook's going to get your information and use it. And I'm like, I would care if the Facebook value was lower than what I'm giving them, but it's not. Like, I like Facebook, and like, it's extremely valuable. They do, this is a transaction, and I'm paying with my data to get what I get from Facebook, right? So, but this story is this woman watching her own life in this show, and they have Selma Hayek playing her, right? And so she's very upset, and she loses her fiance, she loses her job, and she loses even more, and she starts to lose her mental health, and she starts to lose, I wouldn't say she loses her mental health. She starts to feel that her mental health is being impacted by this, right? And her physical health. So what she does is she makes herself repugnant to Selma Hayek, right? And I'm not saying how Selma Hayek's playing her in the show. Like, Selma Hayek is a character in the show. It's very meta, right? And so she gets into this position where Selma Hayek is there, and and what she does is she eats all these burgers. She eats a whole bunch of greasy cheeseburgers, right? And then she goes into a fully packed wedding that has, and everybody's got their cell phones there, and she takes a dump in the middle of a church during a wedding, right? She defecates in the church, right? And so Selma Hayek gets very upset because she's portraying her, and she doesn't want her image used for something like that. But the contract is written in a way where Selma Hayek has to, and so basically, Selma Hayek and Joan go together to destroy the servers at Streamberry so that the information is no longer there. And there they meet Michael Cera, who actually refers to himself as Michael Cera, who's working in the server room, right? And he says, hey, you guys are on the fictive level, right? And he says, you are now trying to destroy something within the story, but you're in the story. And so you yourself are impacting the story. And your actions are constrained, right? Because you're in the story, and because you are invested in the story, and you're engaged in the story, and you are literally in the story, then it traps some of the elements that can happen, right? And Joan says, I don't care, and she destroys the servers, right? And then that destroys that story world, right? And then you go back to Source Joan, who's talking about it. Now, what does this have to do with Dungeons and Dragons? Well, here we go. So, I've been telling you for a long time, get off the D&D is a game train. And the reason why is it traps you. You are trapped in the fictive level, right? And actually, you're trapped in the inconsequential section of the fictive level, okay? And basically, so when you say, hey, do you want to play this game with me, Dungeons and Dragons, right? You're saying, and you believe what most people believe, that Dungeons and Dragons is a game. You're saying, let's come tell a story together. Nothing happens but fun, right? You're not going to be changed. You're not going to be transformed. No answers to real questions that you have are going to be told. We're not going to run quite literal formal experiments from the combating deficiencies perspective, the interaction perspective, and the explorations perspective, right? No formal experiments, no transformation, no learning, no meaning, no purpose, no value. Come have some fun, right? Slady Keaton Twinkies. Nothing. Meaningless. Valueless, right? But the moment you say, hey, I think Scott's right, I don't think Dungeons and Dragons is a game, at that point, it really doesn't matter if I'm right or wrong. Because what then happens is you have created a fictive level of significance where there is a possibility that what you believe can happen, right? And if you think I'm wrong, why don't you go check with Big Pharma and see what kind of pills they give to people? They give 2 different kinds. And they'll tell you what I'm saying is quite true and scientifically proven, right? Like, so, placebos are real, right? Like, we already know if somebody thinks they're taking the medicine, it can actually be effective. And this is what I'm saying, right? I know I'm right. You don't need to. But I can tell you right now, if you continue insisting to everyone that you are playing a valueless piece of junk Twinkie game, then that's what you're going to get. It's just empty calories. Nobody's going to improve. Nobody's going to transform. Nobody's going to get any answers, right? All they're going to get is fun, if they even get that. Because I'll tell you right now, the best way to not have fun is to seek it. Fun happens when you're not seeking it. It happens naturally. It's a spark that flies off the rocks of productivity, right? And the people who try to have fun end up having the least fun, in my opinion. And the people who go about serious work end up having fun when it happens naturally, right? So that's my point, is you really need to get off the D&D as a game train, in my humble opinion. There's solid reasons to do it, in my humble opinion. Every single word of that is my humble opinion. What's important is when I get to hear your humble opinion, when you get in the comments and send your traffic. What's your experience with Black Mirror? I watched a little, I watched a couple seasons of it. It was just like, this is all one note. Do you think there's anything there? We're dungeon masters, right? Is there anything there of narrative value? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.